Hello everyone. I'm gonna start off my very first video by just saying I really like scary stories and movies and everything spooky, honestly. I wish it could be Halloween all year round. And for that reason, I thought my first video could be reading scary stories. I was looking around for different stories I could read, and I've heard of other people on YouTube getting in trouble for reading creepypastas, so I didn't really want to go down that road. I guess technically I could get in trouble for reading these as well, but I'm hoping that's not the case. When I was in school, I pretty much had a monopoly over the scary stories to tell in the dark books. We only had a couple in our library, and I constantly had them checked out. I was always reading them and rereading them, and I thought the artwork was just so creepy. So, interestingly enough, on scaryforkids.com, apparently, they have a lot, if not all, of those stories organized on their website so you can read them. And the art is there and everything, and it was very nostalgic for me to find this. So I thought this was a fun little thing I could do for this video, so I'll probably put in the artwork as well in this video. Hopefully you'll see that. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing yet. But let's get right into the first one that I still to this day think about when I'm driving, especially. First time I read this story, I obviously was too young to drive, but the moment I started driving, I thought about this way too often, especially driving at nighttime. But alright, let's get into it. This story is called High Beams. A woman was driving down a deserted highway, and she noticed a lone pair of headlights quickly approaching her car from behind. When the car came closer, she noticed that it was going to overtake her. The car drew up beside her, but then the driver suddenly swerved back behind her car. She started getting nervous and kept an eye on the strange car in her rearview mirror. He pulled up dangerously close to her rear bumper and began flashing his high beams at her car. The headlights dimmed for a moment, but then the high beams flashed again, and the car behind her surged forward. The car followed her very closely, and on tight curves, over hills, he would flash his high beams on and off, over and over. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road and fought the urge to keep looking at the car behind her. Finally, she approached her exit, but the car continued to follow, flashing the high beams again and again. The terrified woman took out her mobile phone and dialed 911. When the operator answered, the woman screamed into the phone, "A car is following me. He keeps tailgating me and blinking his lights." The woman gave her address, and in a few minutes she saw the red and blue lights of a police car in the distance. She breathed a sigh of relief as she pulled into her driveway, but suddenly the strange car pulled into the driveway behind her and began flashing its lights on and off like a maniac. The police car screeched to a halt on the woman's front lawn, and two police officers jumped out with their guns drawn. They pulled the man out of the strange car and forced him to lie face down on the lawn. Then they handcuffed him as he screamed, "There's someone in her car! There's someone in her car!" The two policemen suddenly pointed their guns in the woman's direction and fired. The woman screamed, but when she turned around, she saw the bloody corpse of a murderer fall out of her back seat. There was a large butcher knife still clasped in his cold, dead hand. The police searched her back seat and found duct tape, a blindfold, and a pair of handcuffs lying there. The woman realized then that the man in the strange car had been trying to save her. When the police released him, he explained that, as he pulled up behind her car and his headlights lit up her back seat, he had seen a man with a butcher knife rising up behind her. Just as the madman was about to stab her, he flashed his high beams and the figure crouched back down. I flashed my high beams every time I saw him raise the knife, he said. The next story I'm going to read is called The Thing. This was a pretty popular one in the first book, I believe. The Thing is a scary story about two young boys who see something horrible in a cornfield at night. It is based on a Nova Scotian folktale in the book Blue-Nosed Ghosts. A version of this story appeared in the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Yeah, I was right. It's from the first book. Okay, here we go. There were two young boys named Trevor and Will. They spent most of their summer vacation hanging around town looking for things to do. One hot August night, the boys were sitting on a fence by the main road. There was a cornfield just across the road. Suddenly, Trevor spotted something in the field. In the darkness, it was difficult to make out, but he thought it looked like some kind of weird animal. He nudged his friend and pointed in the direction of the strange-looking creature. Will said he could see it too. He wasn't sure, but the mysterious thing seemed vaguely human. The next thing they knew, the thing was gone. The boys craned their necks and scanned the field with their eyes. Out of the blackness came the thing. It slowly walked over to the edge of the field before disappearing again. Trevor and Will looked at each other, puzzled. "What was that?" asked Will. "I have no idea," replied Trevor. No sooner had he said that than Trevor felt a clammy hand on his shoulder. He turned around and found himself staring directly into the hideous face of the thing. He let out a yell of terror and surprise. The rotting skin on the thing's face was coming off in certain places, revealing the bone underneath. For a moment, it just stared silently at Trevor with its dark, sunken eyes. Then it suddenly grabbed hold of his arm. Trevor felt its fingernails dig into his flesh as he wriggled out of its grasp. The boys leaped off the fence and ran down the road, screaming in horror. They didn't stop running until they reached their homes. They tried to tell their parents and friends about the thing that they had seen that night, but no one believed them. When Trevor woke up the next morning, the scratches on his arm were still there. After a few days, they got worse and worse. Trevor got sick, and his parents took him to see a doctor. After examining his arm, the doctor told the boy it was infected and gave him some pills to take. Unfortunately, Trevor's condition got worse and worse. The infection spread to his entire arm, and it wasn't long before his flesh was rotting and falling off. He was taken to the hospital once more, but no matter what the doctors did, no treatment seemed to work. The infection spread throughout his entire body. Trevor was confined to bed and started to waste away. It seemed like he was beyond help, and as the days went by, he steadily grew worse. His anguished parents could only sit at his bedside and cry as they watched their beloved son slowly rotting away before their eyes. On the day that Trevor finally passed away, Will came to the hospital to visit him. When the boy walked into the hospital room and saw Trevor lying in bed, he was horrified. His friend looked exactly like the thing. And the last story I'll be reading today is called The Drum. It's a pretty well-known one. Once upon a time, there were two little girls. Their names were Blue Eyes and Turkey. Blue Eyes was named after the color of her eyes, and Turkey after the red dress she wore. What? They lived in a little house on the moor with their mother and their baby brother, Arthur. Their father was a sailor, and he was always away at sea, traveling to faraway lands. One day, Blue Eyes and Turkey went for a walk upon the moor when they met a gypsy girl playing on a little drum. As she played, a little mechanical man and woman came out of the drum and danced. Blue Eyes and Turkey were enchanted. They had never seen such an amazing toy, and they begged the gypsy girl to let them have it. The girl just laughed. "I will give it to you," she said, "but only if you are very naughty. Come back tomorrow and tell me how naughty you were. Then we shall see." As soon as Blue Eyes and Turkey got home, they began to behave as badly as they could. They started shouting, they spilled their food on the floor, they drew all over the walls with their crayons and refused to go to bed. The two sisters did everything they could think of to upset their mother. The next day, they got up very early and hurried out onto the moor. There they found the gypsy girl playing on her drum. "We were very naughty yesterday," they cried. "Can we please have the drum now?" "Tell me what you did," the gypsy girl replied. So they told her. The gypsy girl just laughed. "Oh no," she said. "You were only a little bit naughty. You're going to have to be far worse than that if you want this drum." As soon as the sisters got home that day, they were as naughty as they could be. They threw their cups on the floor, they tore their clothes, they walked in the mud up to their knees and pulled up all the flowers in the garden. They also let the pig out of the pen and let it run away. Their mother was even more horrified than before by their behavior. "If you don't stop this," said the mother, "I will go away and take Arthur with me, and you will get a new mother, one with glass eyes and a wooden tail." That scared Blue Eyes and Turkey. They loved their mother, and they loved their baby brother Arthur. They could not imagine being without them, and the thought of it made them cry. "I don't want to leave you," the mother said, "but unless you change your behavior, I will have to go away." "We'll be good," the girls promised, yet they did not believe that their mother would really go away. "She's just trying to scare us," Blue Eyes said later. "We'll get the drum tomorrow," said Turkey. "Then we can go back to being good again." The next day, the sisters got up very early and rushed off to meet the gypsy girl. When they found her, she was playing with the drum again, and the little mechanical man and woman were dancing back and forth. They told the gypsy girl how naughty they had been the day before. "That must be bad enough to get the drum," they said. "Oh, no," replied the gypsy girl with a smile. "You will have to be much worse than that." "But we promised our mother we would be on our best behavior from now on," said the sisters. "If you really want this drum," said the gypsy girl, "you must be much naughtier." "It's only for one more day," Blue Eyes told Turkey. "Then we will have the drum." "I hope you're right," Turkey said nervously. Again, she told them they had not been naughty enough. "You must be really bad," she said. As soon as they got home that evening, the young girls set about being as naughty as possible. This time, they broke the kitchen table and chairs, they smashed all the fine china, and ripped their clothes to shreds. As if that wasn't enough, the girls whipped the dog unmercifully. They beat their baby brother with a stick, and they punched their mother in the face. Their mother began to cry. "Blue Eyes and Turkey," she sobbed, "you're not keeping your promise. If you don't stop being so naughty, I will have to go away, and instead you will have a new mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail to live with you." "We will be good," said Blue Eyes. "We promise," said Turkey. "I hope so," said their mother. "I can't wait much longer. Please try to behave yourselves." However, the two girls still had their hearts set on the amazing drum, and when they were alone, they said to each other, "Tomorrow we will be good. Once we have got the drum, we will be good again." Early the next morning, Before their mother was awake, Blue Eyes and Turkey ran out onto the moor. There they found the gypsy girl. They told her all about the bad things that they had done the day before. "We were horrid," said Turkey. "We were worse than we have ever been," said Blue Eyes. "You have to give us the drum now." That was when they noticed that the gypsy girl wasn't playing with the drum. In fact, it was nowhere to be seen. "Where is the drum?" the sisters cried. The gypsy girl just laughed. "It is gone. We gypsies are all going away today. I am the last to leave." "But we did as you told us," cried Blue Eyes and Turkey. The gypsy girl laughed again. "Yes, I know," she said. "You have been really naughty, and now your mother has gone away, far, far away. And instead, you have a mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail." Blue Eyes and Turkey began to cry. They rushed home as quickly as they could, but their mother and Arthur were gone. "Maybe they're just out shopping," said Blue Eyes hopefully. "Yes, they'll be back soon, I'm sure of it," said Turkey, trying to reassure herself. But when lunchtime came and went, and they were still not back, Blue Eyes and Turkey began to feel lonely and scared. They wandered about on the moor all day, but when evening came, they went back home. The lights in the house were off, but when they peered through the window, they could see their new mother's glass eyes glistening in the glow of the firelight, and they could hear her wooden tail thumping on the floor.